Hi there, this is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video, we're discussing P is for Peril, written by Sue Grafton. It's book 16 in the Alphabet murder series starring Kinsey Millhone. It's one of my favourite series of all time. Unfortunately, this book isn't that great, and it's because the main case in this book is quite boring. There are two cases. The main case is just very tedious, a bit boring, and the second case, which is smaller, that's the exciting case that really engaged me, and I wished that this book was just focused on that second case. Again, the characters are written very well, but because that main case takes up so much space in the book, it makes this book not that enjoyable. Our main character, Kinsey Millhone, is hired to track down a doctor called Peril. He's been missing for about 9 weeks, and his ex-wife is the person who hires Kinsey. That's a bit strange. Why would the ex-wife hire Kinsey and not his current wife? And that is early alarm bells for Kinsey. She wonders, did the current wife have anything to do with the doctor's disappearance? But as she's investigating that, there's no evidence of that. But she finds herself in between the contest, the fight, I guess, between the ex-wife and the current wife. That's uncomfortable territory for Kinsey. And she also gets tied up in family drama, which also makes Kinsey feel uncomfortable. But you get the feeling that Kinsey can't help herself. She loves getting embroiled in other people's dramas, even though she complains about it in the first-person narrative in all the books. She finds herself in other people's dramas quite often in the series. So you start to wonder, does she really enjoy that? Because it gives her an insight into the real people behind the case when she's investigating things. And that's one of the reasons I think that Kinsey, the Kinsey character, likes to get involved in other people's lives so much. One of the reasons the ex-wife Fiona hired Kinsey in the first place is she thinks the current wife Crystal is having an affair, and Crystal wants Doan out of the way. That's what the ex-wife thinks anyway. When Kinsey talks to the current wife, that doesn't seem like the case. The current wife Crystal has a young son, and it seems that the doctor is head over heels about his young son, wouldn't leave him. That's what Crystal says anyway. There are other things going on in Crystal's life that Kinsey gets involved in, and that's the family drama element in this story. Crystal has a teenage daughter from a different marriage, and that daughter's quite wild, gets in a lot of trouble, and Kinsey gets roped into dramas about that teenage daughter. I won't give all that away, because that plays heavily into the main story, that main case, but it's interesting to see Kinsey getting roped into that drama, and those characters become a big part of her life for this book anyway. That main case gets bogged down with petty grievances and arguments, and also gets bogged down and quite tiresome, gets quite boring in many parts in the book. Other things are going on in the book for Kinsey as well. She wants to find new office space. She's getting tired of office politics and office gossip where she's working at the moment, and it just seems a big theme in this book. Politics and rumours and grievances and petty arguments in all walks of Kinsey's life. It seems she can't get away from it. She's trying to in her professional life anyway by shifting office space, and she thinks she finds a great office. It's owned and newly renovated by 2 brothers, and the office space is very cheap and looks great, got everything she needs, just big enough, and she's quite happy with the price. The 2 brothers, Richard and Tommy Evener, they seem easygoing. Tommy seems a bit of a flirt, and Kinsey feels an attraction to him, and it seems that Tommy feels that as well towards Kinsey. And there are moments in this book where you feel like this could be a new remaining angle for Kinsey, what's going to happen between Tommy and Kinsey. They do arrange to meet up a couple of times in this book for drinks, maybe for dinner, but early on in their relationship, Kinsey learns something about the 2 brothers. It's quite shocking, and it changes her viewpoint about them from that moment on. Kinsey's approached by a lady called Mariah Talbot. Mariah tells her a story about the 2 brothers. They're suspected of killing their parents quite a few years ago. The rumour is that they hired somebody to go in, steal from the parents, burn the house down, and the parents were in the house at the time, and the parents were found tied up in a closet. The brothers were suspects. There wasn't enough evidence to convict them, but everybody thinks they did it. They got away with insurance money, they got away with jewels, everybody thinks, that were hidden in a safe somewhere in the house. They got away with other money that was hidden as well. So the two brothers are thought to have walked away with quite a lot of money, maybe $1 million or two. Mariah Talbot tells Kinsey that the brothers have burnt through their money. They're desperate for new money. And she wants Kinsey to help track down the missing jewels. Kinsey wants none of it. The brothers are very dangerous, she's told. They're quite psychotic, it seems, as well. Kinsey wants to get away from them. As much space as possible between herself and those two brothers. But Tommy is having none of it. You get very big stalker vibes from Tommy. He pops up at odd places, wherever Kinsey is. Pops up at her house. Pops up at Rosie's tavern all the time looking for her. Pops up everywhere, it seems. And Kinsey's quite scared. She starts carrying around her firearm because she's quite scared of what Tommy's going to do. So all the excitement, all the tension, all the suspense, all the thrills happen in this second case, which is a smaller case in the book. Take away that first case, which is quite boring, ends up quite boring and quite predictable, and have it all based on this second case, this would have been a great book. Unfortunately, much of the book, or most of the book, focuses on that disappearance of the Doctor. There are some twists and turns in that, and they're intriguing. They add a bit of something to the book, but not enough. The second case is so much more exciting. It brings out more in Kinsey, brings out more in other characters in the book as well. I preferred the second case much more than the first case. Mariah Talbot, who's the person who approaches Kinsey, telling Kinsey she's an investigator, an insurance investigator, and wants Kinsey's help to find out if the brothers have the jewels and kind of trap them to get them in trouble, maybe get them in a position where they can be arrested and convicted. She feels like Kinsey with too much caffeine. Feels very much like the Kinsey character, and Mariah Talbot is a character I would have loved to see in a series of her own. She just bursts off the page. She's got so much going on about this character. She's a firecracker really in the book, and I wanted her in this book for more pages. Unfortunately, she's not. But I would have liked to see Mariah Talbot just in this book as a big character, bigger than she is, and I wonder if anybody could pick up Mariah Talbot and create a whole series based on her. Does that happen? Do other authors come along and pick up characters from another author's book and steal them or borrow them for their own series? Tommy Heavener, who's that stalkerish character in this book, is written very well for this book. Even though he's a very dangerous person in the book, you do engage with him. You engage with him because he's written well. He's very easy to dislike, of course, in the book, but there's so much about him. He's very well rounded. He's got a great history in the book. His character's spot on, very consistent. He comes across as so dangerous, so creepy. Even early on he comes across as creepy. There's something about him when Kinsey and Tommy first meet that kind of makes you shiver a bit. He's quite chilling, even in those first moments. You can tell there's just something about Tommy that doesn't seem right. And it's written in that way to bring that about just enough for you to get that sense that there's something a bit off about him. And I like that. Sue Grafton can write these characters so well. And she writes characters that are a bit off, a bit dangerous, very well. She concentrates on them a lot. And it seems she wants to get them right. She wants to craft them so they're just perfect. And Tommy is a perfect character. Crystal, who's the Doctor's current wife. She's a good character because all through the book, I was wavering about her. Is she hiding something? Is she guilty? Is she innocent? Is there something about her that Kinsey's going to find out that breaks the case wide open? She does hide things, Crystal, in the book. She's hiding things for different reasons, and they do come about as the story develops. But I like this character because she seems very real. Everything about her seems real. She feels like a real person trapped in a situation where she doesn't know where to turn. She doesn't know what's going to happen. Doesn't know if her husband's going to turn up alive or dead. And you feel everything that she feels. Her emotions come through very clearly in this book. Crystal is another great character. Another example of a great character written by an author that writes so many great characters in so many books in this series. P is for Peril is definitely not the best book in this series. That's because of the main case. The main case that takes up most of the pages gets very boring, very bogged down so often in this book. But the characters bring the book alive a bit, and that second case really brings the book alive, and I wish that second case was the main case, the only case in this book. I rate this a 3 out of 5. If it wasn't for that boring case, that big case in this book, I reckon this book would have been much better. Would have been a perfect book in my opinion if that second case had been the main and only case, because the characters from that second case, Richard and Tommy, those brothers, and the way Kinsey's brought about and written about in the second case is so much more convincing, so much more engaging than the whole first case combined. As I read through this series, I'll do a review on each book and put that video up on my channel. If you don't want to miss out on those videos, check out my channel and subscribe. There's also a Sue Grafton playlist on my channel. It should be on your screen now.